They were not taken care of. I'm sorry to say here. They were not taken care of. Now we have extra burden. We have disappeared persons, more than 10,000. We have half widows. We have children who are crying for their fathers. I personally know how it is difficult to live an orphan's life there. Now, the question for us is how to utilize this whole scenario, this challenge, group of challenge. Achha, one more thing, I had forgotten that thing. We have an army of ex-Mujahideen. That's more than 50,000. They are simply dead bodies who are living the dead life. They are not given any passport. They are not given any kind of facilities by Government of India. And they are not taken care of by Government of Pakistan also. I tell you the bare truth. The question is how to capitalize when this movement has such a resource of sacrifices, reservoir of sacrifices, why we are not able to convince international community. The biggest problem challenge for Kashmiri movement is insensitiveness shown by the base camp Azad Kashmir. I tell you, Azad Kashmir is hurdling our movement now. Instead of contribute, I am very sorry to say that they could have postponed the elections. We were dying and they were contesting elections here. And they still claim to be Kashmiris. I'm sorry to say, they cannot claim to be Kashmiris. Now, the thing is, with this whole sacrifices, and we should salute those persons who fill the graves of Kashmir. We have more than 600 graves in Kashmir, graveyards. We have unmarked graveyards, mass graves. Now, question is how to capitalize this situation. How to capitalize this situation? The international diaspora, instead of supporting our movement, is actually redundant. I think they are actually the burden of the movement. Our movement feeds them. They don't support us. And they are never united. Well, show me a single platform. We have 4 international forums of diaspora. One in America, one in Portugal, one in South Africa, one in this American. Now, question is, when were Kashmiris represented there? It's a totally diplomatic failure by Pakistan and our diaspora. Now, question is how to capitalize this. Our diaspora is a challenge now. It is also a challenge. Now, Kashmiris cannot rely on dead horses. We have to see to it that how we can capitalize, how we can market our sacrifices. It's unfortunate I am saying in this language, business language. We are not able to sell our sacrifices at international level. That's a big challenge for us. You see, UN, there is total indolence, there is total neglect by United Nations. International forum, they all are supporting Modi for obvious reasons. Market, big market. But I say, when Palestinians can show to the world, despite so much pressures from US and Israel, why Kashmiris cannot? Why cannot? Why can't we shake the conscience of the world conscience? It's a big challenge for us, and we have to see to it. And finally, I will not take more than this, that since 1947, Kashmiri is struggling for a democratic right, that is right to self-determination. We are not asking for something which cannot be given. The case has been taken by Jawaharlal Nehru to United Nations. Why Pakistan, why Kashmiri diaspora, why Kashmiri leadership fails to convince international community on this democratic right when the whole world revolves around the concept of democracy? Why? These are my questions being a Kashmiri. Because I cannot deliver everything. Kashmiris are oppressed. It's very hard for us to come out of India rather. And we know what we have to pay after. We know what has been done with Jalil Andrabi Shaheed. He delivered a lecture at United Nations, then he was no more. And we know, I know when I speak here, at what cost I am doing it. Now, question is, what is to be done? Kashmiris are not martial race. We are not aspiring for any kind of violence. We are not asking for any kind of violence. We are just asking for marketing of our resources of this sacrifice. Just tell the world that what is happening there, what's happening to the babies, milk-sucking babies who don't have food this time. We have information this time. For now 3 months, people are now have started to starve now. What we are doing for them, we have allocated 700 crores for Azad Kashmir LOC. Yes, they should be rehabilitated. But what we have done for the victims of Kashmir? Nothing. Nothing. I tell you, if we don't raise the issue effectively, Kashmiris will be disillusioned. And don't think that it is so much easy thing. It's a very difficult thing for a Kashmiri to be disheartened for Pakistan, because we have love for Pakistan. We want that Kashmir should be resolved, and resolved as per peaceful methods, and right to self-determination should be given. We have not given the hope that world conscience is sleeping, and it will always sleep. We want that India, Pakistan sits somewhere, discusses the issue seriously, and comes up with an honorable solution to Kashmir issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Advocate Qadri, for raising such pertinent points regarding this Kashmir diaspora. I now request Ms. Farzana Yaqub as our next worthy speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Farzana Yaqub is daughter of Sardar Yaqub Ahmad Khan, ex-President Azad Jammu and Kashmir. She graduated from Punjab University in year 2000, and currently she is Eisenhower Fellow for year 2016. She has served as Minister for Social Welfare and Women's Development. Today, she will address on Kashmir conflict and international obligations.
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम, अस्सलामु अलैकुम रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू। आप सबका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया कि आप यहाँ पर आए हैं कश्मीर के बारे में बात करने और सुनने के लिए। और जो ऑर्गेनाइज़र्स हैं, आपका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया कि आपने मकबूजा कश्मीर से हमारे मेहमान बुलाए जिन्होंने सच बोला, और सुनने वालों का बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया कि आपने सच सुना और उम्मीद है कि उसको हज़म कर लिया। I started in Urdu because we're in Pakistan and we can get away with our national language once in a blue moon. Kashmir for Kashmiris is a very emotional subject, and no matter how educated we are, but when we speak about Kashmir, the emotions do take over, and so we end up speaking as we all do. And Qadri really spoke the truth. I'll be sharing a little bit of history, because generally what I've noticed is that although we zealously love Kashmir, but frankly we don't know anything about Kashmir. I mean, how, what happened and where did it start? So it's a bit of history, and history is generally just story. But if you want to believe it, it'll be a fact. And if you don't want to believe in it, it's a story. So here are some facts. If you think they are right, then believe that I'm always right. And if you think they're not right, then I'll say catch me if you can. I will not go beyond 1947, because generally Kashmir is associated with Pakistan, and Pakistan happens in 1947. I mean, the love story started before that, but the issue actually was born in 1947. So let's discuss it after the delivery actually happened. It was not a very good delivery, I must say. There was a lot of suffering and a lot of blood, usual of deliveries. Kashmir. Generally, when people talk about Kashmir, they do know that it was a princely state. And I also hope that people do know that this princely state was actually fought by the prince in the 18th century. Now, this instrument of accession was to be signed by the princes or the rulers of these states. India, the subcontinent, was governed, or shall we say, it was the fiefdom of East India Company, which means United Kingdom. August 15, all these treaties and all these agreements were nullified. They end. Which means if you've bought something and you have a long-standing treaty, it's not existent. Now, if that sale deed had finished, then who signed the instrument of accession of Kashmir? That becomes questionable. But the best part is that there is no instrument of accession of Kashmir, because according to the dramas of India, something happened to it. So this signed paper did not enter into any realms of reality. It was not shown to the representatives of United Nations. Pakistan is nowhere in the whole story. So the mere basis of this issue is not actually there. You see why Kashmiris are emotional? We have such a true, actual cause, and it's been marred by fiction. This is the only issue where fiction is more believable than fact. And that is why I said in starting, it's history. If you believe it, we are a fact. And if not, we're just a story. Of course, Kashmiris are disillusioned. Why wouldn't they? People of conflict areas do have severe issues. But these are magnified and amplified when they feel that that or those for whom they aspire are not actually representing them. And that is Pakistan. Of course, the meetings that happen in diplomatic circles are not shared on the media. So people do end up being more disillusioned than before. But the fact that these resolutions are in the UN agenda means that Pakistan has been doing something right. Otherwise, these could have been removed. Because lo and behold, it is the Pakistanis themselves. Some wonderful people tend to say that, oh, they should be, these resolutions are too old. Any resolution of UN does not have an age and an expiry date. Another issue with our resolutions is, number one, Jawaharlal Nehru took up this issue, the Kashmir issue, to the UNO. Not the Pakistanis, no. India did. Why did it do that? They said that Pakistan has attacked them. So in 1947, Pakistan was so great that India felt that it could not handle Pakistan and they had to go to United Nations. Do you think that would happen today? We hear Indus Water Treaty being planned to be abrogated and everything. They don't even feel the need to discuss it with everyone. Their arrogance and the bravado has increased to that level. You can just see what is happening in Pakistan and how it is being managed. Talking about Indus Water Treaty is another long love story which has never had a good ending. Only 2 dams were built. Only 2 dams. After all that hard work that was started by World Bank, only 2 dams were built. And damn, we never built anything after that. That's where Kashmir is important, because your lifeline is water. And we are the people who safeguard your lifeline. Let's put it that way. Let's present it to the world that way. If someone says anything about Kashmir, if someone says anything about Indus Water Treaty, I believe and I think that people who do know about Kashmir and Indus Water Treaty need to stand up and not take this not so non-seriously. Article 6, under which we have the Kashmir resolutions, has those resolutions that are non-binding, which means that UN can be its usual self. The persona that UN has maintained is an Article 6 persona, and the issues that have actually been fixed were Article 7, so bad luck there as well. I believe that people in 1947, 48, 49 and so forth, they believed that Article 6 was good enough for them. It could have been at that time, but who would have known that UN would be so toothless for Kashmir and India would become a tiger? No one knew it at that time. So I wouldn't say much about what the people were thinking at that time when we had a lot of countries on our side. Try passing some resolution now in the UN. Let's see who's going to stand by us, for us, with us. The gun that we have, that we think that we can choose, is Chinese. I would like to share Jawaharlal Nehru's words. I say with all respect to our constitution that it just does not matter what your constitution says. If the people of Kashmir do not want it, it will not go there. Because what is the alternative? The alternative is compulsion and coercion. These are the words of Jawaharlal Nehru, the person who took this issue to United Nations. And Indians being Indians, what did they do? But of course, compulsion and coercion. Why is such a small state with such a small population so important to so many countries? You do know that some of Kashmir is with China as well, Aksechin. Oh, and wonderful as it is, Pakistan gave 2,000 kilometers to China. So Kashmir is that interesting piece of land that has been gifted to other countries as well. So you have China, you have India, and then you have Pakistan. These three countries are nuclear countries. I don't think so that's very scary, because apparently none of them seems very interested or worried about Kashmir. At this point of time, I was just going through Twitter. And if you know of Michael Kugelman, of Woodrow Wilson, even he had to tweet about it. What did he tweet about? There is this Indian lady who has said that please don't bomb Kashmir because their chai walas are very good looking. That caught sight of someone like Michael Kugelman. That's the state of affairs of this world. It's the presentation, just as this young man said. And I'm sorry, I am known to say strange things at very serious times. If you can parcel the shit really nicely, you'll sell it. The issue is that this is not shit. This is real. You don't really need to cover up. You do not need fiction. You do not need good parceling. You can get it done if you're serious about it. So I say roll up your sleeves, pull up your shorts, and get serious about it. And that's what GTTN has done. I think these efforts are so important because this disenfranchisement needs to be discussed. Our Kashmiris on the other side need to know that people are actually concerned. They've started thinking about it. Let bygones be bygones. You also noticed how much love we have for each other. I'm from Azad Kashmir and he's from Maqbuza Kashmir, and I contested those elections and I lost, thankfully. Otherwise I'd be in trouble. Yes, but it happened. It had its reasons, it happened. I'm going to end this very short speech by telling you that I was supposed to talk about what the international world media, etc., is supposed to be doing or what they are doing. And honestly, the chai wala was the best hit for today. So I told you what Twitter is doing about it. Pakistan has to show its seriousness by being as loud and as bullyish as India is, because we're on the right. उर्दू से मैंने इब्तदा की थी और उर्दू से ही मैं इख्तिताम करती हूँ कि सच छुपाए नहीं छुपता और झूठ बनाए नहीं बनता. ये कैसा झूठ है जो बन चुका है और ये कैसा सच है जो बन नहीं पा रहा, ये हमें सोचने की ज़रूरत है. And finally, Article 103 of the UN Charter says that, like, if there are two naughty parties, India and Pakistan, and they're not getting serious about working, UN can jump in. So there goes your Article 6 and 7 debates and discussion. You can actually discuss about putting a timeline on this issue, and if these two naughty boys don't fix it, UN can. Yes, there is a way out. It's just that no one is ready to walk it. So thank you so much, and let's try to do the walk after the talk.
Thank you very much, Ms. Farzana, for edifying the House. Ladies and gentlemen, our next orator is Dr. Mohammad Khan, who has served as Head of Department International Relations, National Defense University, Islamabad. Dr. Khan has dedicated his work towards the politics and security issues of South Asia, Asia Pacific, Kashmir dispute, nuclearization, and strategic stability. Today, he will enlighten the House with his views on Kashmir conflict as nuclear flashpoint in South Asia. Thank you. Sir.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you very much, PICSS and GTTN, for inviting me to talk on issue which indeed is very close to the heart of every Pakistani, and of course the Kashmiris, those who have suffered, and otherwise those who are feeling this sufferance if they are not directly part of this conflict. Ladies and gentlemen, a lot has been said as far as the history of Kashmir is concerned, and perhaps we know a lot by now after having almost passed 7 decades. Indeed, the geopolitical position of the Kashmir is such that it is surrounded by 3 nuclear powers: Pakistan, India, and People's Republic of China. Somehow, among all these 3 countries, India is a trouble partner. India has its issues, the border issues and otherwise, with Pakistan mainly focusing here, we in Kashmir. But as far as China is concerned, India is equally trouble partner for the China too. Therefore, the nuclear dimension of the Kashmir issue cannot be ruled out. In the historical perspective, ladies and gentlemen, it was 1954. Joseph Corbell, the father of former US Secretary of the State, Madeleine Albright, he wrote a book, Danger in Kashmir. In the book, he was very, very specific, and he wrote that for today, as for the past 7 years, 47 to 54, the 2 great nations of the subcontinent, India and Pakistan, continue to dissipate their wealth, their strength and their energy on a nearly fratricidal struggle to which hitherto almost unknown state of Jammu and Kashmir has become a battleground. Ladies and gentlemen, Siddharth Bhatia is an Indian journalist, and he visualized and indeed he analyzed the statement of Joseph Corbell today, and he says that the same words have even more ominous ring. Indeed, he is pointing out toward the nuclear dimensions of the unresolved issue of Jammu and Kashmir. However, 10 million people of the Jammu and Kashmir, they have lived through Indian terror, under subjugation, and indeed a constant fear, which still continues, and indeed it is enhancing with each passing day. However, despite that, as we have seen the young Kashmiri from Indian occupied Kashmir, the advocates are, that they are hopeful that someday they are going to snatch their freedom from the Indian subjugation. This is indeed the dedication the Kashmiris have, a hope the Kashmiris did not lose. Another dimensions of nuclear flashpoint, the dynamics of the nuclear flashpoint of the Kashmir, ladies and gentlemen, it was on 10th of March 2000, the former US President Bill Clinton in a statement said that the most dangerous place in the world today, I think you would argue, is the Indian subcontinent and the line of control in Kashmir. The BBC defense correspondent Jonathan Marcos, while analyzing and assessing this statement, he said that in geopolitical terms, there is a plenty of justification for the President Clinton's contentious statement that South Asia is currently the world's most dangerous place. Indeed, the statement was issued in the context of Kargil conflict, which preceded after the nuclearization of South Asia in 1998. Here I would again say the former Prime Minister of New Zealand, Helen Elizabeth Clark, she visited India in 2004. And prior to her visit, she issued a statement. Primarily the focus was that India must sign Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty. But in the background, she was very loud and clear that since there is a nuclear dimension to the issue of Jammu and Kashmir, and she felt that unresolved nature of the issue of Jammu and Kashmir has given way to nuclearization, and until and unless that option is resolved, that issue is resolved, there are all the more chances that these two nations, these two countries, they continue behaving in the same manner. And she said that there has been many a time during my tenure that there has been a danger of nuclear conflict between India and Pakistan, but the resolution of the nuclear issue lies in the resolution of Kashmir issue. This created problem for her visit, but she said that I am steadfast. I know the reality and I have to speak the truth. The Kashmir issue has to be resolved. It is indeed the bone of contention between India and Pakistan and continuation of nuclearization of this issue. Ladies and gentlemen, the previous history of both India and Pakistan clearly speaks an element of mistrust, distrust and rivalry. They had developed right after the partition of India. The dynamics and consequences of this distrust further grew with the passage of time, rather coming to some conclusion. And this indeed, after 1971, it was 1974 where India made its first nuclear detonation in the form of Smiling Buddha. And once on 11th and 13th of May 1998, India detonated its other nuclear weapon, that is an overt attention of the world and overt action. Then, ladies and gentlemen, it was not said that this program, this weaponization is going to be for the peaceful uses. Rather, I quote Brajesh Mishra. He said that these tests have established that India has a proven capability for the weaponized nuclear program. And you are the scholars know that on 13th of May 1998, then Indian Defense Minister George Fernandez was very, very categorical that we have issue with the Pakistan, and the issue is that Pakistan has to vacate or resolve the issue of, they called the Pakistani occupied Kashmir, and they meant Azad Jammu and Kashmir and Gilgit Baltistan. He was very clear in his threatening words. And I also remember 28th of May 1998, once Pakistan detonated its nuclear weapon, and the tone was changed. And that was that we want to resolve all issues with the Pakistan through peaceful means. So there is a nuclear dimension, and indeed Kashmir is a nuclear flashpoint. Here, there are two Indian scholars. I would briefly touch upon those. He is Subhash Kapila, who has a contention. He feels that this is a fiction, this nuclear weapon, nuclear threat, since he feels that India has already decided not to initiate or not to first use nuclear weapon. And he indeed blamed Pakistan for portraying this option in order to avoid a conflict on conventional basis. But another writer, Indian writer, Barkha Dutt, contradicted this view on the basis that during the Kargil conflict, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, then Indian Prime Minister, was categorical in his letter to President Bill Clinton that there could be a nuclear option in case Pakistan continues holding of what it is the Kargil Dras sector. Ladies and gentlemen, over the period, this distrust enlarged more thereafter, and nuclear indeed has enhanced this all. What the level of the threat in the South Asia is. We have examples from rest of the world, the hotspots. Chinese president mentioned day before yesterday in the BRICS conference. We have the issues, particularly the Palestine, the Balkan issue. Chechnya has been there. African continent is today involved in massive human rights issues and conflicts, and what we see in the Middle East. But ladies and gentlemen, either they were regional or they were content. And luckily there is no nuclear dimension to all these issues, so they are not that serious. What the issue of Jammu and Kashmir is between India and the Pakistan. And unfortunately, both are geographically contiguous areas. I would say that India and the Pakistan, they must rank as the most likely contender for this conflict that risk ultimately a nuclear confrontation. Yes, there is a strategic stability prevailing in the South Asia, particularly in the wake of nuclear weapons both these countries have. But the question arises, do this strategic stability or possession of the nuclear weapon really stop escalations and the confrontations between these two countries? No, ladies and gentlemen, no. Immediately after 1998, we had the Kargil. Thereafter, we had the major mobilization of the forces in 2001 and 2002. And that was the most dangerous phase perhaps this region could have belonged into. And then it was 2008 Bombay attack and Pathankot and so on and so on. Till the time, just few days back, India fabricated the surgical strike in the Pakistan or in across the line of control in Azad Jammu and Kashmir, various areas, which indeed contradicted by Indian scholars, Indian politicians, and even the Indian hierarchy, what the government is prevailing. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, I will. Ladies and gentlemen, apart from the nuclear dimension of the Kashmir dispute, India is going all out on two main aspects in Indian occupied Kashmir. The one aspect is its demographic changes. And these demographic changes are in the form of rehabilitation of the Hindu population from various parts in the garb of what they have the claims on the Kashmir. Then they are in the process of formulating and establishing the Sainik colonies. And then in the name of the Poonam Kashmir, in the name of Bantustan, they are indeed creating those areas at strategic level in order to create demographic changes in the valley areas. And this strategy has already been successful as far as the Jammu province is concerned. And the second issue, ladies and gentlemen, is doing away with the identity of the Kashmiris. The Jammu Walas, they should have their own identity, that is Jammu. The valley is the only, should be known as Kashmiri. They are the trouble creators, nobody else. And as far as Leh and Ladakh area is concerned, they think that they are the Buddhist, and whatever the Muslim population is there, that's already under subjugation. So there is a lot to be done, ladies and gentlemen, in this regard. And yes, most important issue, the human rights issue. What all is being done, this is indeed to divert the attention of international community. If some quarters they are looking for this human dimensions, India is very cleverly diverting this attention. So we have to be very, very careful, ladies and gentlemen. And what we need to do, the way forward, that we have to build our own narratives, rather than following the narratives of some of the media channels and the media houses. We need to build those narratives. Those should be Pakistani narratives. Those should be narratives of the Kashmiris, supporting the Kashmiri cause for their right of self-determination. In this regard, even the dead horses can be made use of. Our diplomats, our political leadership, our Kashmiri diaspora, and more so, I would say, that scholars, the academia, the intelligentsia, I think they have a lot of responsibility to discharge as far as the Kashmir is concerned. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Dr. Mohammad Khan, for your thoughts on Kashmir as nuclear flashpoint. Ladies and gentlemen, before we move on to our next speaker, Ms. Farzana Yaqub has to make a little clarification. Please listen to her. Farzana, over to you.
This is particularly for the bachas on Twitter. I said in the beginning that check the facts, and if I'm wrong, catch me if you can. And you did not catch on. So the Article 103 is basically, the supremacy of UN resolutions over bilateral issues. Generally, Kashmir is marred by Simla agreement. So this is what it was about. But I thought that I'll give it a test, and thank you so much. No bachas passed. Stop tweeting about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Farzana. Respectable audience, now I would request Lieutenant General Retired Asad Durrani to edify you about Uri attack and surgical strike impact on Kashmir issue and Pakistan's policy. Ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant General Retired Asad Durrani himself is a veteran of 1965 and 1971 wars of Pakistan against India. He has served on key posts in Command and Staff College, Quetta, and National Defence University, Islamabad. He has served as Director General Inter-Services Intelligence, and after retirement he has served as Pakistan's ambassador to Germany and Saudi Arabia. Sir, I request you for your thoughts on the topic.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Kashmir is, of course, a huge problem, but let me start with some of the lesser problems, which actually have an impact on how the intelligentsia and the academia describes it. We have to hold these events in the presence of some very high-profile people. We don't mind waiting for them for 1 hour in vain. Even if they don't turn up, after that we have to complain that we are now running out of time. My personal problem is that I chose this topic myself. I must put it in context, why I chose it, do some justice to it, and do it all in 10 minutes. So no words of gratitude, no platitudes, no wish lists, no blaming the fortune, unfortunately, and so on. We get on with the context. There was a time that one used to, make military strategies, and after retirement, it was not so important. So one wanted to study how conflict resolution is done, how peace strategists will think. And I found that, interestingly, one of our own, the composite dialogue framework, turned out to be one of the best that one could think of. I'm not going to go into it. One has analyzed it enough, also got it published a couple of places. But one thing very remarkable in this was Kashmir, too complex a solution. Let's first improve the environment, put it in the back burner, if you like, and then with the revived confidence and so-called trust, we might be able to address it incrementally in stages. After a few hiccups, I think we launched it with the bus. And that also proved to me, at least, that we must be heading somewhere. When nothing happened, one was forced to get back to the drawing board and said, why not? Even the so-called low-hanging fruits, no progress. Visa, culture, minor issues, trade and commerce, almost no progress. And then one concluded, when we used to say and hear that India was a status quo power, I had not realized that they have taken the status quo to the extreme. That means, let's not make any movement, don't provide any relief, don't upset the apple cart. Otherwise, the dynamics of the new situation we may not be able to control. In that, since Dr. Mohammed Khan mentioned something about the AJK, I think on that too, they can use it as a bargaining chip, but there is no interest in taking it. Status quo is something that serves them the best. They think they can live with it much better than Pakistan can, being the power that they are. The price that one has to pay for peace, of course peace has a price, we have to compromise certain policies, that is not as high as the price they might have to pay just in case a negotiated settlement comes into being. I think Pakistan has understood that, and both of us could have, may have, or might have decided we will live with it till something happens. And that brings me to that particular point where I volunteer to speak on this. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a part of a couple of track tours. The real benefit there is that one looks at the counterparts from the other side. Some of the Indian hands on Kashmir, for example, if they were there over a period of time, how did they react, respond, so on and so forth. 1 year now, this track two that I'm going to talk about, one could see that there were genuine concerns on the other side. They looked unconfident. Didn't know why. The second round, they actually looked worried and said, the game seems to be lost or over, or at least it's very difficult to win. The last one was early September after Burhan Wani, and there was panic. What do? We have thought about so many contingencies. Even Mumbai can be taken care of. We can make the usual noises. We may or may not go for the joint anti-terror mechanism. We can talk about joint investigation. We can live with it. What do we do if there is a genuine uprising in the West, with which Pakistan has nothing to do, where Pakistan cannot be blamed, where no one would be convinced that it is because of us? What do we do? And that is where no prizes for guessing how we came to that conclusion. All of us did know, even before Uri happened, or the surgical strike happened, that some sort of management of these crises would be done. To take the attention away is just one thing. To put the Pakistan in dock would be another one. The third is, of course, the old agenda. How do we gain more time so that the crisis is diffused? So there are enough number of people with a military background or still serving in the military. They could very easily come to the conclusion that Uri was a false flag operation. It's not the first time. It has happened before. The Al Farhan kidnapping, now proven, was one. And I can talk about a few others, but that's not the point. And once it happened, after that, now you have worked up your own public to the tempo in which it had been. how do we now say that, well, yes, of course, we have saved face, we've taken care of that, Pakistanis did only, we've given them a befitting report. I do not know about the surgical strike, but I have good reasons to believe that it never happened. There are enough number of doubts that have been created, but that again is not the point. The point is that they had at least conveyed it to the people, and with the help of the strategic community and the media that they control much better than we do, we don't control very much, actually, nothing almost. So that message has been conveyed, but now comes the main point. What now? If I've understood from Mr. Kadhi's thing, this thing will continue. That means the Indian problem remains. Of course, the Kashmiri problem, no doubt that we are not denying it, but that problem remains. What happens next time? Would we be able to get away with another Uri or another surgical strike? I do not know what will do, except I think if it continues, they will think of a few other things. Chanakya's book is open, and you'll find out what they do. But it will be up to us to actually make a good judgment of when something happens, why it happened. More important than that, how are we now going to conduct our future policy from now onwards? Getting involved there may not be a good idea. I don't think the Kashmiris there want us to get involved in that manner in which it downgrades or degrades or takes the focus away from a genuine resistance. But there will be probably no choice. Well, what happens if it continues? If we are also not going to contribute something to the humanitarian suffering, no money, no medical aid, no goods, because we don't want to get involved, how is that going to happen? Would that mean that the relentless, brutal suppression will someday reach a point when the Kashmiris might also say, well, waited for 70 years, why not wait for another 70 years? That's one. The second is actually perhaps even more important. We are very keen here to be seen as we are the peace lovers, we are always ready to dialogue. What would be the implication if we say dialogue again? What is the message that the diplomats here can give you a better answer? I do not, I cannot do that. All that I know is that even offering dialogue, accepting dialogue, carrying out dialogue for the sake of dialogue also has a price, a message that can go to the Kashmiris and say, well, this is happening here. Pakistan is the one that is providing relief, the time to the Indians to continue doing whatever they do. And the last point, yes, of course, we have let you down, most of it. That's true, that's true. We can do it again. Possible. I do not know about it. If you assume and if you work out your strategy that external help is nonsense, rubbish, bakwas, nothing will happen on that side. But if the Pakistanis were also going to do it, what are you going to do? I'll be interested, I think, either in the discussion period or some other later time, but it can happen. We don't want to do that again. I have no idea what our choices would be, or I have some idea what the choices would be, but I do not know how it will be played out considering whatever is happening on our internal front. Thank you, Lady.
Thank you, General Durrani. I now request Senator retired Akram Zaki, who is Chairman, Pakistan Institute for Conflict and Security Studies, and he has served as Ambassador of Pakistan to China, United States of America, Nigeria, and Philippines. Sir, I request you to thank our speakers.
Well, you have heard four very learned speakers on this very important issue. The first speaker, fortunately, is a person who came from Indian occupied Kashmir and knows the situation. After giving us a brief history of previous struggle,
he's told us that there are two distinct things in the present uprising. Number one, the primary role is by the youth and the rural areas. And the traditional leaderships are not to that extent involved. Now the main issue is how to project this internationally, because the previous efforts were not successful because the uprising came and they were not properly presented abroad. So it's now an indigenous struggle without any evidence of external support, and this deserves to be seriously considered how this can be helped. The second speaker, although the first one was a lawyer, the second speaker gave us all the legal aspects of the doubtful nature of the instrument of accession and the illegality of the stand taken by the other side. And then Dr. Muhammad Khan presented a very realistic political cum military situation of the nuclearization of South Asia and the potential of this dispute becoming a nuclear flashpoint. General Durrani issued with specific problems of today and made a very important point that India has been trying to go into peripheral issues, but even there they made no change in the status quo, because India is primarily a status quo power. But now the problem is with the indigenous new intifada of youth in the rural areas, which is not coming to an end in spite of repression. India has a serious problem. And this is an issue on which Pakistan and the world community needs to really focus and see how these people of Kashmir who have risen against Indian occupation and suppression, how they can be helped. Perhaps, although the speaker from occupied Kashmir has expressed lack of confidence in Azad Kashmir, but I think just this is perhaps a time when Azad Kashmir can become the focal point for projecting the struggle. If Pakistan has been unsuccessful, according to him, then maybe the lead role should be taken by Azad Kashmir and others should go into the supportive role, because they have had elections recently and they have a new government, and the new government has a new situation to deal with in Azad Kashmir as well as in the occupied Kashmir. So there is a great potential, but instead of going in for question and answers, now we have 4 more speakers, including the newly elected president of Azad Kashmir. So,
of this resistance movement. Yasin Sahab was my student, the great Yasin. Babar also. And Babar's father-in-law, he said, I represent a legacy. I will give just one line. Dr. Ghulam Qadir Wani, the mentor of Sayyid Ali Gilani. He was the man. Sayyid Ali Gilani के बाद पीछे एक intellectual ताकत थी इनके father-in-law. He was martyred by the Indian Army when he was just 38, 36. अब मैंने जो बात कहनी है, हम कश्मीरी, we derive inspirations from Allah's book. And then, you know, in the present paradigm, Qaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah and Allama Iqbal. बाकी हम दानिश्वरी नहीं मानते, न समझते हैं न मानते हैं. The super intellectualism is not our concern. Our concern is straight. The history of the dispute and the international legality of the dispute. Kashmir is a disputed territory by history, by all legal connotations. Indian narratives are not acceptable to the people of Kashmir. किसी की क्या किताब हो, कोई कौन किताब लिखता है, हम तो लहू की किताब लिख रहे हैं. Kashmir is a disputed territory. This is the people of Kashmir saying, Burhan Wani saying, the youth of Kashmir saying, every girl, every child of Kashmir saying. It is not integral part of India. Modi Saab's narratives. Modi's narratives are based on falsehood. Modi dares to speak against Pakistan Federation. Balochistan, a federal part of Pakistan. Modi speaks against Pakistan about the waters. And Pakistani super intellectuals have reservations to speak about Kashmir. They can't be bold enough to talk about Kashmir. They can visit England, they can visit India and talk about the martyrdom with reservations. Our struggle is in alignment with the UN Charter and with the relevant UN resolutions. This is what Malia Lodi said. I appreciate her as a diplomat. She has been unequivocal, categorical, transparent and honest to the people of Kashmir. The state terror is not represented by the people who fight for their inalienable rights. They don't represent the terror. The people who fight for their right to self-determination, the people who fight for their legitimate aspirations, the terror is always represented by the might that use indiscriminate force against innocent civilians. Pakistan is not engaged in the struggle, in the freedom struggle of Kashmir in any way except, I may be very clear, when we bury our martyrs under the cover of Pakistani flag, the sentiment in Pakistan cannot be controlled. Hafiz Saeed cannot control the sentiment of Pakistani youth. When we bury our youth under the cover of Pakistani flag, how Pakistani army can help it? How Pakistani ISI can help it? How Pakistani MI can help it? We are bound by ideological relations. My two daughters are married to two Punjabi young men now. I came here in search of freedom, in search of projecting the issue of Kashmir internationally. Masood Saab knows me. I was in Geneva when he was secretary there. I projected Kashmir issue at all levels, in UN, when Munir Akram was the ambassador there, High Commissioner there. So Kashmir was besieged that time, the way it is besieged now. India says that Hafiz Saeed is engaged in Kashmir. Okay, let us for a while accept this narrative of India. I say, as the representative of people of Kashmir, it is an indigenous peaceful movement where the youth, young, everyone, under curfew since last 103 days, they render sacrifices for a legitimate right. They don't have gun in their hands. So this is a conflict of the narratives. Very simple. Let it open for United Nations and all international agencies. Let them establish whether the Indian narrative is correct or Kashmiri narrative is correct. Why do India hesitate, not allowing UN High Commission to go to visit Kashmir? Because India has to hide its brutalities, its unprecedented violation, characteristic type and systematic human rights violation of Kashmir. We are without food. Durrani Sahab, we are without food for Pakistan. We are without food, Masood Sahab, without medical facilities for Pakistan. Whether you support us or you don't support us, we are ideological Pakistanis. We will not leave Pakistan! We will not leave Iqbal! We will not leave Qadir Muhammad Jinnah! Because we are by birth Pakistanis and we will let India go from Kashmir! हमारी जुदोजहद ताकत के जरिए 70 साल, our struggle could not be crushed by unleashing terror in Kashmir under the pretext of so-called black laws. Catch and kill, because Indian army personnel has right to kill any Kashmiri. The India used its all might indiscriminately. I am conscious. I know the language of United Nations. Unprecedented human rights violation with impunity. Could India contain Kashmiri sentiment till date during the last 27 years? I swear in the name of Allah, the merciful, the beneficent, Kashmiris will not leave Pakistan, Kashmiris will not leave Islam, Kashmiris will never accept India. This is in our blood. This is in our conviction. The present struggle dynamics is against Hindutva, against intolerance, against fascism, against Hitler thoughts, against Mussolini thoughts represented by RSS and Modi. You go and study their books, they say we are fascists. It is in their books. This is not I am saying. Aruna Biti Rai saying in an interview. She read the book as well. You can study. Goldwalker, Bal Thackeray writing themselves. We represent Hitler thoughts. We represent Mussolini thoughts. That is why. Comprehend, be clear, two things. India is a friend, India is an enemy. Those who are born in Pakistan, who have not seen India, I will tell them, I am brought in India. I mean Kashmir. और मैं कोई बच्चा नहीं हूँ. मेरी 50 साल जुदोजहद है जेलों में. हर जगह पर ये मेरे बच्चे हैं. जो ये अभी आया था मेरा बच्चा है. मैं आपको एक बात क्लियर बताता हूँ. मैं दानिश्वरी नहीं बताता आपको. I understand social, political environment and ideology, how it is grooming and how it has evolved in India. They don't accept you as a nation. It will be their ultimate effort to disintegrate Pakistan, which inshallah they can never do. We will keep them engaged in Kashmir. We will keep their army engaged in Kashmir for the future generations of Pakistan. Not for our generations. We will cut down for the future generations of Pakistan because it is the strong millah. It represents millah. This is the future of millah. So, they could not do it, they cannot do it. So this is what India is an enemy. Now after East Pakistan, intervening in East Pakistan, taking its army, why world is blind? They took their army in East Pakistan to disintegrate a sovereign country. If it was an internal issue, let Bengalis and West Pakistanis decide themselves. Why India? Why India? Now Balochistan, if India is bold enough to disintegrate Pakistan, now bold enough to disintegrate Pakistan again, where are the Pakistani intellectuals? Pseudo-intellectuals. This is a war of nerves. This is war of ideas. This is war of ideology. This is war of future. This is war of sovereignty. This is war of alignment. And Kashmiris will contest this war peacefully, patiently, unarmed, within the framework of United Nations Charter and international law. We are intelligent enough to understand the geopolitical complications and delicacies. We know our limits. We have never violated those limits. But if international community fails to deliver, I as an intellectual, one of the founding fathers of this resistance, Sayyid Ali Gilani's friend, Yasin Saab's brother, I will tell you, this militancy is not going, this movement is not going to remain peaceful. Its contours will expand up to infinity, and the entire Asia, the globe, will come under the grip of Kashmir. So I advise, I request to address it peacefully within the ambit of UN resolutions in a transparent manner, without intimidation and external pressures. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Thank you very much, respectable Professor Ashraf Saraf. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker will be Ms. Mushal Hussain Malik. She is the chairperson of Peace and Culture organization that works for global peace and harmony. She is actively advocating the rights of women and children in war zones and conflict zones through seminars, conferences, public rallies, protests. Her husband Yasin Malik is a freedom fighter and leader of Jammu and Kashmir Liberation Front. Today, she will speak about genesis of ongoing uprising in Kashmir. Shah.
Auzubillahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. With profound gratitude, I wish to express my thankfulness to Honorable President Azad Kashmir, Mr. Masood Khan, former Senator Mr. Akram Zaki, Chairman Pakistan Institute for Conflict and Security Studies, NAS Global Think Tank, the most respectable speakers, and obviously the most honorable, respectable audience sitting here, and the youngsters, students. And my topic is genesis of ongoing uprising in Kashmir. Indian-occupied Kashmir is on the edge yet again. It is angrier than ever before. After the latest intifada, post the brutal killing of Burhan Wani Shaheed, a poster boy and a youth icon of the Kashmiri freedom movement. The uprising is not an incident-based rebellion, nor is it because of any sense of alienation. It is in fact based a sentiment-based movement which is based on a decades-long struggle. It is a bold expression of the political aspirations that all Kashmiris demand is legitimate and is deliberately being criminalized by the Indian state authorities. The homegrown narrative of the Kashmiris is being hoodwinked by the Indian hyper-propagandistic and provocative stance, which literally feeds on a daily diet of anti-Kashmir and anti-Pakistan rhetoric. Kashmiris are challenging India on every front. The indigenous narrative of Kashmiris unnerves India the most. The struggle is a die-hard romantic rebellion where every stone which is hurled at the Indian soldiers symbols a political expression of Kashmiris to challenge the Indian state authorities. This is the battle between the very, very young Kashmiris and the old doctrine of India. Indian government, post Burhan Wani Shaheed's brutal killing through its security forces, have massacred large numbers of unarmed civilians, conducting warrantless house-to-house searches, seizing the youth, beating protesters, destroying entire neighborhoods, burning villages.
If you want to speak from here, it's no.
Intensified indigenous struggle for the right to self-determination after Burhan Wani's brutal killing. 101 days have passed with the continuous army curfew. And the entire leadership over there, the Hurriyat leadership, Saeed Ali Gilani Saab, Mr. Meerwise, and Yasin Malik, my husband, and Shabir Shah, and just recently Asiya Andrabi, the Public Safety Act was slapped upon her. They're all peaceful political leaders of a legitimate struggle, and they're all languishing in jails right now. And my own husband, he was not feeling well at all. He was kept in interrogation center for over 2 months, where his heart also stopped functioning properly, and then he was not given proper medication. But now he has been shifted to central jail for the past 2 days. But his health is very, very serious. The doctors have advised him to be admitted, but unfortunately, instead of shifting him to the hospital, they have thrown him into central jail. And whatever is happening with the public over there, it's very much in the social media, and they are pelleting the people. I mean, what kind of government, or a puppet government, or they call it a legitimate government, the Indian, the Chief Minister Mehbooba Mufti, but definitely it's a puppet government, because all that they do in Indian occupied Kashmir is these assemblies, they just pass draconian laws over there like TADA, POTA, Armed Forces Special Powers Act. These are all black laws that give complete immunity to the occupation forces over there. And no government in the world, sane government, kills 104 civilians in just a matter of 3 months, injures over 2,000, critically injures over 20,000 people, blinds 800, arrests 8,000, lodges FIR against 2,300 people, and disappears 150 innocent civilians, and arrests one of the leading human rights defender, Khurram Pervez, and bans all the newspapers, the internet connections, and as the Honorable Speaker, Professor Ashraf Saab mentioned, that people are starving over there. There's an economic blockade for the past 3 months. Food supplies have been stopped, and medical emergency over there. Ambulances are being attacked. Even doctors who are treating those blind patients right now, who have been attacked with pellet guns and shooter guns, even the doctors are now being targeted, and 2 of them have been blinded with pellet shots by the Indian forces. I mean, even in war zones, I've never heard of this kind of treatment with injured people, like attacking ambulances and grenade attacks and tear gas shelling within hospitals. And this is completely absurd. This is worse than any, I think, World War II, or if you compare it with any big war in history, this has never taken, such kind of crimes have never taken place before. And India is always shouting, screaming, doing this propagandistic approach about terrorism and that they're a victim of terrorism. I had just one question to them, that if beating to death a young lecturer from Pulwama, pumping over 300 pellets onto the body of an ATM guard Riaz in Srinagar, and killing an 11-year-old Junaid in Srinagar, is that not terrorism? Please get your definition of terrorism and victimhood corrected, India. You are killing, maiming, crippling Kashmir's young generation. In bleeding Kashmir, you open fire at mourners as they don't allow men to lower bodies of their young sons into the grave. They don't allow prayers at the Srinagar's historic Jamia masjids since past 10 consecutive Fridays. They don't make distinctions. I'm addressing the Indians right now. They don't make distinctions between the combatants and non-combatants. They fire at babies, kids, girls, boys. This is a war which has been declared on dispossessed, unarmed, peaceful people of Kashmir. The ongoing unrest and army curfew in all parts of Indian-occupied Kashmir has shut down schools for the past 3 months. But volunteers of Kashmir, the victims I would say, have set up makeshift centers in homes and mosques to ensure education for their children. And these children are going in these mosques and these houses with a lot of fear that they might get shot because there's an army curfew everywhere. And they're sitting on the floor. There's no blackboard for them. There are no proper books for them. And it must never be that the children of any conflict have to bear the brunt of an armed conflict. We have to help where help is most urgently needed. Now coming back to India-Pak relations concerning the genesis of the ongoing uprising in Kashmir, the persistence of Kashmir problem has been a source of weakness for both India and Pakistan. Relationships between India and Pakistan are at a depressingly low point. Now, not that their relationships were smooth during the last couple of years during the Congress rule, but now they have deteriorated to such an extent that their troubled legacy will haunt South Asian stability. In India, the mentality of the Sangh Parivar in the ruling BJP appears to have overwhelmed the external affairs and national security civil-military establishment. With an emphasis on the cultural and political manifestation of Hinduism, there is increased pressure on the religious minorities within India's domestic context, and a forceful approach has been adopted in foreign and security affairs of the region. And it has taken up such a tough policy towards Kashmiris by changing the entire demography of the region through a blooded path. The BJP government showing to its political far-right and religious supporters that India can assert its conventional military superiority and economic advantage over Pakistan. Indian propaganda of diplomatic isolation of Pakistan has also started to showing impact. Iran is now formally joining the CPEC and connecting the Chabahar port, which was built by the Indian money, and then China has categorically stated that it attaches to Pakistan's position on Kashmir. Same is the case with Turkey. Turkey is also supporting the Kashmir cause and they want to send a fact-finding mission. And recently the NATO chief has also said that we cannot afford to be indifferent towards the conflict of Kashmir. So this narrative being sold by the Indian media and Indian state that there are no takers for the Kashmir conflict or Pakistan is isolated is completely false. And I would just like to end with just a few, this last paragraph, and I'm running short of time, that human beings around the world deserve the basic rights to freedom, honor and dignity. But unfortunately, these basic requirements are a pipe dream for people in conflicts and war zones. In this particular case, the Kashmiri people. But the germ of the idea of freedom and liberty has been sown in this heavenly land since decades. And inshallah, it is our blind faith that it will sprout one day. My message to the world's silent conscience: be no one's agent except your inner voice and your own conscience. That's how you can derive strength and give back to society and save humanity, as life is too short and limited, and die without any burden by raising a voice for the oppressed. That's what Ahmed Faraz taught us in his immortal words. Mera kalam to amanat hai mere logon ki, mera kalam to adalat hai mere zameer ki. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mishal Hussain Malik. Ladies and gentlemen, our next honorable speaker is Engineer Shamsul Mulk, who has served as 24th Chief Minister of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and he has also served as Chairman BAPTA. Today, we will discuss on potential of war on water issue between India and Pakistan. So,
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। जनाब सदर साहब, जनाब बकरमज़की साहब, मेरे इतने दोस्त बैठे हुए हैं, सबसे हमारे कुंभी और बुजुर्ग भी हैं, बच्चे भी हैं, सबके लिए सलाम। The first time I came in contact with the problem was that I think I was about 13 years old. My father was a government servant, and one day he came home and said something to my mother, and after a while then he met his father and took his permission, took a rifle from the home, because Pashtuns always have weapons lying in their homes. He took that rifle and he went. And my mother later on told me that he has gone for Kashmir jihad.
I think
That
India
is-
knows that you have weapons in your drawing room.
Yes. So, that he has gone on Kashmir jihad. He was not a political man. Never in my life, later on when I grew older and older, I discussed certain other things with him. I never found him to be politically oriented in any manner or in any other such things. He was just a common man belonging to that place. But he thought that Kashmir is a place where the evacuation of the Maharaja's rule and their Indian rule is a jihad. This was the thinking. Well, that is what it is. That is what I have always thought. And then for that time when I went through this experience, to me, Kashmir became a part of Pakistan's agenda. Establishment of Pakistan without freedom of Kashmir makes that establishment and their agenda incomplete. That is why I would like to tell and convey to Mr. Saraf that Saraf Sahab, you are not अकेले, आप इसलिए नहीं हैं कि ये सिर्फ आपका काम नहीं है, ये सिर्फ आपका मसला नहीं है, ये सिर्फ आपकी प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, ये हमारी सबकी है। हम अगर नहीं जानते इस चीज को, if you don't understand this relationship, then the problem is ours. और मुझे in this context कभी परेशानी होती है, डेफिनेटली होती है, जब कश्मीर में इस किस्म के हालात हो जाएं, जब अब हैं, तो तकलीफ तो होती है। लेकिन मैं जब सोचता हूँ कि जब 1940 में पाकिस्तान रेजोल्यूशन पास हुआ, किसी के जहन में आ सकता था कि पाकिस्तान बनेगा? Did ever anybody think? But 7 years later, that country came into being. Why? Leadership. Leadership. There was a man by the name of Muhammad Ali Jinnah, and Muhammad Ali Jinnah, I remember that one British journalist who was interviewing him after establishment of Pakistan, and after a long interview he said, Your Excellency, I thank you great deal for the time that you've given me, but now I'm going to ask you one question. There are people in the world who have changed the map of the world. There are also people who have founded new states. There are always also some people who have fathered a new nation. You have done the three of them together, and without firing a shot. Do you still have an ambition? A desire left unfulfilled? He said, yes. He said, what it is? He said, on the day of ultimate accountability, when I stand before my Lord, I want to hear the words, Muhammad Ali, well done. And as I read this, his entire character, his incorruptibility, his fearlessness, his iman, his commitment, I got explanation for everything. When he said, when I hear the words Muhammad Ali, well done, what it indicated was that his institutions of compensating him for his labors was not even on this world. It was elsewhere. It was at a place where things cannot be cooked, where something could not be lied about. Nothing of that nature. So the point is that we need to have a leadership of that type. And then Allah, God gives such a person then the capacity and the attentionality. Once I was talking to the army officers at the Gujranwala garrison, and I told them, I said, look, gentlemen, whenever you go in pursuit of defense of Pakistan, you are doing the right thing. What happens is that besides you, also walk angels, but you can't see them. Because there are certain of things which are very near to the divine likes. One of them, be just, because it takes you very near to the divine being. And secondly is when he says, हमारे पैगंबर के मतलब कि मैंने उसको दीन हक देकर भेजा ताकि वो और बाकी सब पर गालिब आ जाए. So truth and the right thing is the most important thing, and if you are pursued, सराफ साहब इंशाअल्लाह ताला पता नहीं कब होगा, ले कश्मीर आज़ाद होगा, क्योंकि ये रास्ता जो है, इसके लिए जो रास्ते जाते हैं वो रास्ते सही रास्ते हैं और वो अल्लाह के पसंदीदा रास्ते हैं. और उन रास्तों पर जाकर लोग कोई इंसान, कोई आदमी, कोई कौम डिससेटिस्फाइड नहीं हुई, तो मैं ज़्यादा I don't want to give you the trouble and botheration of giving me a chat. बहुत शुक्रिया. और मसूद साहब, आपकी तो हम बहुत से बातें सुनते आए हैं यूनाइटेड नेशंस में, आपकी तकरीरें सब कुछ. अल्लाह करे कि इंशाअल्लाह ताला आपका आना भी यहाँ पर मुबारक साबित हो जाए और ये पाकिस्तान के एजेंडे की तकमील में एक रोल जो है वो हो सके. थैंक यू वेरी मच.
Thank you very much, Honorable Engineer Shamsul Mul. I now request Senator Retired Akram Zaki, Chairman PICSS, for vote of thanks and concluding remarks.
Your Excellency President Azad Jammu and Kashmir, Sardar Masood Khan, respected speakers panel, Honorable Professor Sahiban, and distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Before I request our chief guest to come and speak to us, I'd like to give him a little background of this event, that Pakistan
Institute of Conflict and Security Studies, while considering the situation, found that Kashmir is one of the oldest conflicts which has become very active, and it poses a serious threat to the security of the region. Therefore, Institute of Conflict and Security Studies should try to raise this issue in public and do something about taking advantage of the learned people. And we are very grateful that NUST University very graciously agreed to offer their facilities and cooperate with the Pakistan Institute of Conflict and Security Studies. So I'd like to express our gratitude to the NUST establishment. The President Sahib is sitting there and all his colleagues. And then the social media took the responsibility of bringing this event to the notice of general public. And in this case, I am grateful to Mr. Ishfaq, Mr. Farhan, and their team for raising this Kashmir issue and the Intifada and about this conference extensively on the social media. Grateful for their cooperation. Sir, in the morning session, there were 4 speakers who gave their views on the various aspects of Kashmir struggle. And today you have heard 3 learned speakers. I admire Saraf Sahab, the strong conviction which he has expressed and faith in Pakistan, Qaid-e-Azam and Lama Iqbal, and Kashmir's commitment with Pakistan. I would like to assure him every Pakistani has the same commitment for the freedom of Kashmir. And Kashmir is very close to our hearts. There may be some people who have drifted away.
I always wanted you to see as foreign minister, you know.
There's some people might have drifted away in the lure of regional cooperation, but I believe that without Kashmir, between the two nuclear powers, there is a very serious and dangerous situation, and this problem must be resolved. One of the learned speakers this morning said that President Clinton and the Prime Minister of New Zealand had said, without solving the Kashmir issue, the nuclear issue cannot be resolved. I would like to add that President Obama in his first election had promised that without solving Kashmir, Afghanistan cannot be resolved. But then later on, expediency persuaded him to change his stand. It is a reality that for this region, the most important issue is the Kashmir issue. Of course, Palestine has been a major issue and responsible for conflict in the Middle East. But Palestine issue and Kashmir issue, although very similar, the difference is the nuclear factor in this region. And therefore, the world is more concerned about this. We have heard from the various speakers that now there is a new intifada in Kashmir where the youth and the rural youth is playing a key role. And this movement is so strong
that after 102 days and all the brutalities of ideology of Hitler and Mussolini, they have not been able to suppress it. So this movement is strong and going to continue and deserves full support. This at least is a declaration, final declaration, that the people of Kashmir have decided to leave the yoke of Indian slavery. And they will not stop. There are some problems for Pakistan due to international situation. But now the people of Kashmir are very fortunate that in Azad Kashmir they have elected a president who is an accomplished diplomat with vast experience in dealing with these issues and problems. Under his leadership, I believe the government of Azad Kashmir can play a leading role in projecting the intifada of the youth of Kashmir at a global scale. And Pakistan can play a supportive role to back up the efforts of Azad Kashmir government. With these small observations, I have the great pleasure to invite the President of Azad Kashmir, Sardar Masood Khan, and thank him for finding the time to join us. And I know he had to join because he has a commitment, like every Pakistani, like every Kashmiri, to plead this cause. Sir, the floor is yours.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I start in the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most beneficent. I begin my remarks by thanking PICSS and GTTN NAST for organizing this event. I also want to thank Senator Akram Zaki for his very generous remarks about me and his expectations from me. Let me also share the secret, although it's not a secret in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, that Senator Akram Zaki, when he was Secretary General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, he was my boss. I had the privilege of working with him for about 2 years, and he was a mentor. And there was another former boss who left, Mr. Riaz Khoka. He was Foreign Secretary, and he was my ambassador in Washington, D.C. So it's, for me, it's a privilege to be invited by Senator Akram Zaki, also Mr. Abdullah Khan, the Managing Director of PICSS. And I want to thank all the friends here sitting in the front row. I can recognize Engineer Muhammad Asghar, who is Rector of NAST. He's a very dynamic leader. Mr. Amir Hashmi, Mr. Akram Sheikh, Mr. Shoaib Sadal, Mr. Asad Durrani, General Asad Durrani, as a matter of fact, General Ambassador Asad Durrani, and many others. Ms. Farzana from Azad Kashmir is here, Dr. Muhammad Khan, and I'll stop at that. Mr. General Naeem Lodi, many others. So I'm pleased to be here to be talking to all of you. 4 inspiring speeches that were made by Professor Ashraf Saraf, Mishal Malik, and Shamsul Mulk. And then, of course, preface to my remarks was what Senator Zaki said. After these thanks, let me plunge into the subject directly. When I was elected the President of Azad Kashmir, immediately after that, I addressed a press conference, and there were lots of correspondents asking different sorts of questions, and I said, well, they said, how do you feel about it? And I said that I'm happy because I have been entrusted with this responsibility by the members of the Azad Kashmir Legislative Assembly and J&K Council, but at the same time, I'm very sad. Because at that time, this was 25th of August, Kashmir was burning. Kashmir was burning. So there was no occasion, there was no moment for celebration. And Mishal Malik today very graphically described the dismal situation that we see in the Indian occupied Kashmir. It is heart-rending to read all the posts that you find on the internet. She gave details of how people have been killed mercilessly, how they have been blinded, how they have been critically injured. And as we know, that the Indian presence in the Indian occupied Kashmir is illegal, illegitimate. It is foreign occupation, alien domination. We know that. Let me point out something. According to international humanitarian law, even the occupying powers and forces have some responsibilities. 3 I'll mention. One is precaution, the other is proportionality. The third is distinction between combatants and non-combatants. India has violated all norms of international humanitarian law, even as an occupier. In fact, I'd like to compare and contrast the conduct of the Kashmiris, the way they are waging their struggle, and the conduct of the occupiers. The Kashmiris are establishing new precedents in freedom struggles by giving their blood, by reiterating their commitment to freedom and the realization of their right to self-determination. And they have given all sorts of sacrifices. I think everybody knows that Kashmiris have been giving sacrifices since 1832. But in the past 70 years, Kashmiris have demonstrated their resilience and established new records of how freedom struggles must be sustained. Under the shadow of bayonets and the repressive rule of the Indians and the brutal force that has been used, the people of occupied Kashmir have defied all those brutalities. And today, as you would know, that the streets of Srinagar and all townships and villages, reference of course was to Pakistan, in the internal affairs of India. Were Kashmir an internal affair of India? While Sushma Swaraj was speaking in New York, why were the Kashmiris taking to the streets and saying no to Indian rule, no to Indian repression, no to Indian blandishments? And somebody mentioned, one of the speakers mentioned that they have recruited these new allies from within Kashmiris. They have used all sorts of devices and stratagems, and yet the people of Jammu and Kashmir and the people of occupied Kashmir hold a referendum, a plebiscite every day, and they say, we do not accept India's illegitimate rule. What stronger evidence there would be for the international community to hold a plebiscite, because a plebiscite is being held every day. The second untruth is that what is happening in the Indian occupied Kashmir, when there is resistance, when there is a boy who goes to Srinagar Chowk or Srinagar in different streets of Srinagar, or to Sopur, or to Anantnag, or to Jammu, or in Ladakh, and they say Azadi, and we want right to self-determination, and they say that this is terrorism. The people's aspiration for their right to self-determination and the demand for freedom from Indian repression is terrorism. By doing so, India is trying to transform the victim into victimizer and transform the victimizer, which is India, into a victim. We know where these strategies come from. This is Chanakya or Machiavelli, where you distort the truths. But this doctrine of Indian statecraft would fail. The Kashmiris have risen, and Pakistanis have resolved that under no circumstances they would compromise on the issue of Jammu and Kashmir. This is something generational, intergenerational. When the killing started after 8th of July, Sayyid Ali Shah Gilani and Mir Omar Farooq, they said that now the baton of freedom is in the hands of the 5th generation of the Kashmiris. And as Mishal Malik said, that Indians do not let Kashmiris out of incarceration, that they do not let them hold political gatherings, and that they interdict their movement. And that's why Mr. Yasin Malik has been suffering, and Shabir Shah has been confined. But can they confine the voices of the people of Jammu and Kashmir by incarcerating these leaders? Because the movement goes on. There was a curfew that was imposed by the Indian authorities. There's a curfew that has been imposed, self-imposed by the people of Jammu and Kashmir. We have to understand. And when I talk to people, I always tell them, whether it is foreign audiences or whether it is audiences like ours today here, that you have heard about color revolutions. The color of Kashmiri movement right now is dark green. This is done deliberately, consciously, because the people of Jammu and Kashmir, the people of occupied Kashmir, are expressing their solidarity with the people of Pakistan, because Pakistan has been the most ardent, most consistent, most successful, most vociferous advocate of the cause of the Jammu and Kashmir. Now, let's move to the international community. Let's talk about dual standards. Is the international community responding to what is happening in the Indian occupied Kashmir? Yes, but in a very perfunctory, lukewarm manner, as if they are going through the motions. Compare and contrast it with what is happening in Syria, or in Yemen, or in Libya, or in Central African Republic, or in Sudan, or South Sudan. The United Nations Security Council is very active, very responsive, very proactive. They're concerned that the people of Syria and people of Yemen are not getting food and medicines, and therefore there should be humanitarian corridors against the will of the rulers, and there should be humanitarian interventions, and Kashmiris are orphans. A separate standard would be used for them. When I was in Washington and New York and I was talking to the American and international interlocutors, I said, look, you look at South Asia through two prisms. First prism is, somebody used the word expediency. Expediency. Your own profits are involved, or your strategic alliances, your worldview. You want to contain China, and that's why you want India as an ally, a steadfast ally. This is your first prism. And a second prism is the security prism. You see India and Pakistan as nuclear armed states, delicately balanced in their power projections. There should be no war in South Asia, because that would be injurious to India and Pakistan and to the international community. You want to contain it. So I said that in this process, Kashmir disappears. Kashmir disappears from your radar screen. Whatever happens there, if there's a massacre taking place there, if there are crimes against humanity being perpetrated there, if there is genocide there, against Muslim population, this would disappear off the screen of the international community. And I was talking to the aides of United Nations Secretary General, and they said that India is intimidating us, and they are threatening us with all sorts of consequences. And I said, please tell the Secretary General. I also had a brief encounter with the Secretary General, by the way. But to his top aides, I said, where in chapter 6 is written that if a country is overbearing, very powerful, very arrogant, that your responsibility in regard to preventive diplomacy stops? Where does it say that you won't use conciliation and mediation and negotiations, and you won't go behind the scenes to persuade the interlocutors or the two principal actors, protagonists, to step back? Do you want escalation? Where does it say that you stop defending right to self-determination of peoples? They had absolutely no answer. My counsel to them was, be innovative. Said, what can we do? I said that you can go to the Security Council and report the situation faithfully. Because after all, you have UNMOGIP. UNMOGIP is reporting. Even if there was no UNMOGIP under Secretary General for Political Affairs, Mr. Feldman should be dispatched to that place. He should observe the situation, because this crisis, for God's sake, which can turn nastier, and the people who are being killed there, they need protection, your protection, international community's protection. I said I was talking to some representatives of think tanks in Washington, D.C., and they said, what is your biggest problem? I said, you mean here in Washington, D.C., and Europe and elsewhere? They said, yes. I said, our biggest problem is that we hit our heads against a thick wall of callousness, apathy, and expediency. And it is our endeavor that we shall bring down this wall brick by brick. That's the resolve that we have in Azad Kashmir in Pakistan, and I'll talk about it later. Well, let me tell you here that my friends warn that India is very strong, it's very arrogant, it's very uncompromising, it's not flexible at all, and there is realpolitik. And I said, my friends, realpolitik has been there since time immemorial, and 2,000 years from now there will be realpolitik. You can never walk around or walk past realpolitik. But then it has been the struggle of humankind to come up with principles of international law, and they keep on struggling and striving until they bring the international community around your own point of view. And this is what our task is. The United Nations should not be reduced to the concept of Europe that was there in the 19th century. After all, this organization was created to save the world from the scourge of war and to promote and protect human rights of people who have been colonized, whose territory has been occupied. This is the genesis, the raison d'etre of the United Nations. What I want to emphasize here, that don't be discouraged by the dictates and dynamics of realpolitik. We have to go past them. We have to use ingenuity, and we have to come up with innovative means to do that. We have to outsmart India, politically, diplomatically, because as one of the speakers preceding me said, and very forcefully, compellingly said, that we have a moral cause to defend. And Allah Almighty, in the voice of the people, will triumph and will prevail. Let me also tell you that when I became the president of Azad Kashmir, I issued a 6-point agenda. And this is very important. I said, my first point was that we should consolidate our own position, the people of Azad Kashmir and Pakistan. I see weaknesses. I see multiple diverse voices. I see people doubting their own stand. They're overawed by the power and clout of India. They're scared of India's might. So I would say that first, please change that mindset. When you're defending the rights of the Kashmiris and when the Kashmiris are demonstrating their will by giving their blood and by sacrificing the honor and dignity of their women folk, the people in Azad Kashmir and Pakistan can do a lot. I always talking to the people of Azad Kashmir, I said of the Kashmiris here in Pakistan and in Azad Kashmir, I said that our leaders in Kashmir and our people, in fact, they are in shackles, but you are free. Azad Kashmir is called Azad. You're free. Imagine what you can do. Discard this lexicon of helplessness, of protest, of despondence. Change your mindset. Have no doubts about your stance. Because sometimes I see that even those who are very active on the issue of Jammu and Kashmir, the core of their argument is hollow. There is a flurry of activity. But the hard core is hollow. That must be rectified. And I'd say that must be rectified because the freedom and independence or the right to self-determination, realization of the right to self-determination is closely linked to the persona of Pakistan itself. I've emphasized the mutuality of interests of Kashmir and Pakistan. In fact, Kashmir right now is the trigger, as one of the speakers said, is a trigger for nuclear or conventional escalation here in South Asia. Everybody knows that. This is elephant in the room. You can't sidestep it, you can't dispatch it to the back burner. This issue has to be addressed. The rights of the people of Jammu and Kashmir have to be put on the table. No question about that. In fact, Pakistan's defense is secured and fortified by the territory of Kashmir. One of the speakers was saying that Indian soldiers which are locked down there in Indian occupied Kashmir, in addition to that you have this thick territory, thick border, thick wall called Azad Kashmir going up north to Gilgit-Baltistan, which defends the territory of Pakistan. All waters flow from there to the plains of Pakistan. And India has decided to use water as an instrument of war. And I would say they were grateful to the armed forces of Pakistan that they are defending the territory of Azad Kashmir. But in the same breath, I would say that we, the Azad Kashmiris or Kashmiris, are proud that tens of thousands of Azad Kashmiri personnel and officers are part of the armed forces of Pakistan. And they are ready to lay down their lives for the defense of the territory of Pakistan. Some of them have made to the top ranks in the armed forces, and we are proud of their achievements. So let me tell you that Kashmir and Pakistan have a symbiotic relationship. One is not complete without the other. This is very important to understand. If God forbid Kashmir would not be secured, I have my apprehensions that Pakistan would not be secured. And today, you know that Pakistan, Kashmir, because of a combination of circumstances, is also guarantor of Pakistan's economic security. The China-Pakistan economic corridor passes through the territory of Jammu and Kashmir. That's why India is so uneasy about it. India is uneasy about the economic corridor because of two reasons. The corridor, that artery would pass through Jammu and Kashmir. But the second thing, that they do not want to see Pakistan as a secure and prosperous state. Let me try to wind up. How much time do I have, sir? Okay. The second thing that I want to highlight here is, consolidate your position within Pakistan and Azad Kashmir, have the strong conviction about Kashmir. But the second aspect that I want to highlight, that we have to go to international organizations, particularly the United Nations Security Council, United Nations General Assembly, Human Rights Council, and other international forums frequently. It is the rapidity, the frequency that would make an impact, not a one-off participation, not a one-off engagement. This is very important to understand, because I can tell you, I have served in the United Nations, both in New York and in Geneva. I know the dynamics there. I know the culture there, the culture of apathy, the culture of realpolitik that I was talking about. You need constant presence, you need constant diligence. This is very important, because let me tell you, it's clear to all of us that if we talk to our groups like these, and if we do not reach out to outside actors, our narrative would remain confined to ourselves. We are all converted. We're all already convinced about the legitimacy of our cause. So we have to reach out to the international community, the United Nations, Washington, London, Brussels, or other capitals. Let me tell you, are not going to present Kashmir to you on a golden platter. They say that you are so articulate, you people are very articulate, you have suffered so much, so let's give this gift to you, the gift called the realization of the right to self-determination of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. This is not going to happen. We will have to go again and again and again. Let me tell you that this time when Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif addressed the General Assembly, it created a great ripple, a wave, which traveled instantly to India, and there was angry denunciation. It makes a difference when you take the international community into confidence at that highest level. But there should be constant follow-up. Some 20 plus envoys were sent abroad. Some people were cynical about it. Some people said that, well, this will not make a difference. And I said that I usually quoted from Woody Allen. He's an American comedian. And he said 80% of the game is showing up. And I said, for God's sake, show up. And Pakistani parliamentarians showed up. And it sent two signals. Substance matters, but showing up also matters. 80% of the game. And because the foreign officers would start thinking, their interlocutors, they would start thinking about Kashmir. So it has a symbolic value that the entire Parliament of Pakistan is behind you. It's not just the Kashmir Committee. It's not just one committee in the Parliament, it's the entire committee, and it's the entire political spectrum that is supporting the cause of Jammu and Kashmir. Of course, I know other reservations. This exercise can be refined in the years to come. This is not mine. Now, we also have to go to North America, their congresses and other decision-making forums, directly, through the embassy and directly, the citizens of Pakistan and citizens of Azad Kashmir, Indian held Kashmir, Indian occupied Kashmir, they should go there directly. When the Indian held Kashmiris or the Indian occupied Kashmiris are talking to their interlocutors in Washington or in LA or in Canada, Ottawa, different places, they have a very high degree of credibility. This is not my point. Okay? Somebody else's? I was just getting distracted, so pardon me for a minute. Now, and to the European Union. I think that, let me go to the next point, which is that I was in Washington DC and in New York, and this is my impression, that like a gathering we have today here, they have gatherings in Washington DC, greater Washington area, or in different parts of the United States, but they are not interacting sufficiently with the Americans or with the Europeans. And in Europe, when they interact with MEPs, members of European Parliament, who are basically Pakistanis. So we're talking to ourselves. And I said, look, I read a study by Najamadal, which was published some years ago, and he says that the Pakistani American community should be between 700,000 and 1 million. Indian American community in the United States is about 3 million, slightly more than 3 million. But the Indian American community has penetrated deeply into the American administration, into the American Congress, into decision-making entities, and now it's a fact. I talked to the American ambassadors that you have subcontracted Pakistan policy to Delhi. US policy on Pakistan, it has been subcontracted to Delhi. And this difference has been brought about by the Indian American community. Pakistanis and Kashmiris, they should demonstrate leadership. They should reach out. They have a lot of passion. And I said that passion is like fuel. But then you must have an engine where you will use that fuel. And that's where organization comes in. I said that you do not and you should not expect leadership from either Pakistan or from Azad Kashmir. You are leaders, you are proven leaders. What you should be doing is to mobilize your own resources, and we would be catalysts. Now, last 2 points as a matter of fact. One is, and Dr. Muhammad Khan and others would be aware, that we always talk about asymmetry in the conventional realm between India and Pakistan. In the nuclear realm, there is a semblance of parity because of Pakistan's effective deterrence. The numbers do not matter. What matters is the equilibrium that we have been able to establish, the states of Pakistan and India. But let me tell you that the biggest asymmetry between India and Pakistan, a flank which is completely vulnerable, is the realm of the media and think tanks. Many a war in these days are fought and lost in the cyberspace. Whether it was Egypt or Libya, or whether it was Syria or Yemen, or whether it was Ukraine, most of these wars are being fought and lost or won in the cyberspace. And the media, I want to pay this compliment to media, when India tried to peddle its skewed and very distorted story about Uri, the Uri incident, and then the so-called surgical strike. The media in Pakistan rose to the challenge, challenged their narrative, and demolished it bit by bit. And therefore there was a balance in the international community. And the Indian audience, in fact, they started asking Modi's government, if you're telling the truth, why do we have a counter-narrative which is coming from Pakistan? And why is that counter-narrative being carried by the international media? Because you spoke with conviction, your prose was readable, your arguments were very effective, and you used modern media, the social media. Think tanks. In fact, it's always frustrating for me that even if it is Uri or it is the martyrdom of Junaid, if you would type in Junaid Ahmad, in Google, the first 10 stories would be from Hindustan Times, the Hindu, and or Economic Times, and all Indian papers, or it would be NDTV. I mean, I would call it a catastrophe that even Dawn and News, Geo sometimes, of course, Samad, Dunia, they appear, but not on the portals. They are not uploaded. They are reporting in Junaid.